All right, welcome back to Deep Marketing. This is the podcast where I'm really pulling back the curtains and diving deep with you on what it really takes to build a multi-six, multi-seven-figure business, specifically for spiritual, mindful, impact-focused entrepreneurs. I have been behind the scenes as a marketing strategist and as a launch and sales copywriter for many multi-six and multi-seven-figure business owners, spiritual coaches specifically. So what I'm doing in this podcast is really just pulling it all back, being really transparent with you and showing you what things are like behind the scenes. So today I want to talk about my business and how I'm moving into or have moved into full-time travel and how I'm reworking and pivoting my business model so that it's actually going to fit that, so that I'm able to continue traveling for as long as I want to. I am on a mission to drive from Serbia to Vietnam in my Renault Megane with my cat. It has turned out to be a little more difficult than I thought with some different visa and border types of situations, but we're going to make it work and we're going to make it happen. And this trip may end up being a lot longer than I planned, definitely the whole summer, and we'll see what happens after that. We'll see how long it takes. So that being in mind, there are some minor pivots that I need to make in my business and that I've been working on intermittently in between my travels to make this business continue to grow and feed that lust and desire I have for a really big business that continues to grow and scale and make more and more income and serve more people. And at the same time, giving me the freedom to disappear for several days and be in the nature and not be accountable to anyone online or anything like that. So, I think the first thing that I want to do is to share that this change in lifestyle, pretty drastic change, honestly, going from living in my chill little apartment in Serbia and my community of friends in my small town. And sure, I traveled a lot, of course, but always came back to that home base. And I really uprooted my whole lifestyle for this adventure. And it really did not take a long time to make this decision. It just clicked. It happened one day and I set off. And I say that because a lot of the times in business, we think that we have to have everything perfectly in line. We have to have everything perfectly in a row in order to go and follow our dream and follow our sense of adventure and wanderlust and all that kind of thing. But really, you get to just go and take action and you get to do the things in life that you want to do and make the moves that you want to make. And this is how I'm doing it real time and taking my business along with me and going, okay, there are a few things I do want to change and tweak and make this more sustainable so that it still grows and so that I can be really comfortable and present in my travels and not be thinking about work all the time. So this kind of came along because I was getting breadcrumbs from the universe dropped in front of me that there was a change coming, right? I've been living in Serbia for 4 years and I was really comfortable there. And while all along there have always been a few things about living in my town in that country that weren't my favorite, I was always like, yeah, but there's pros and cons to everywhere you live. I have a good base of friends here. I have a good community. It's a great location. The nature is important to me. It's good for being able to travel throughout Europe and all this other stuff. And at the same time, there was a few things that were missing. And those began to become more and more important to me as I evolved, grew as a person, right? As things progressed in my life. And it's like some of the things that I realized that I really wanted, like more of an entrepreneurial community, more of a spiritual community, more of a social justice minded, passionate about equality type of community. And I wasn't finding that in Serbia. And so what I ended up doing, I'm just wiping the sweat off of my lip because it's super hot and there's no air conditioning like anywhere in Turkey. What I ended up doing was really started to connect back in with myself, because when you are going out and you're searching for something new, you're searching for something different, essentially searching for something that you're missing, it's easy to get lost in going out and doing that search and doing all these things. And I'm very Aries, generator. Like I just go and I get things done and I take action. And sometimes that's not always necessarily the answer, going out and meeting new people all the time and trying out these different groups and traveling and going and participating in all this different stuff. I was doing all of that and that was great. And at the same time, I was like, this is obviously not just bringing me exactly what I want. It's not bringing me the kinds of connection that I want to experience in my life and in my community. And so I realized that it all comes back to myself. And this is so true for anything in your life, whether it's in your local community or whether it's in your business or whatever it may be, your relationship, it all does come back to your connection with yourself. So I re-signed up with my therapist. I was like, I want some accountability in this. I want someone I can talk to. It doesn't matter whether you're a trained coach or you're used to coaching other people, just having somebody who is trained in that and can reflect things back to you and point out your blind spots just helps you progress so much more than doing it on your own. And so I signed back up with her and started going back to her every week. And I really committed to my daily rituals and practices. I'm a very spiritual person. And so I got, back into my daily tarot reading, my daily journaling. In the evenings, especially, is where I started to notice I was losing my connection to myself. That's where I tended to either want to just automatically go and hang out with people or, like watch Netflix, right? And distract myself. And it doesn't matter how enlightened you are, how far along on your spiritual path you are. I'm using air quotes for those who are listening. You can always get into these ruts. And so I started to get into these kinds of ruts. And so I really worked on breaking that pattern by just being intentional about my spiritual practices and connecting back with myself and getting back into my hobbies and the things that I was passionate about. And that's when the universe started to show me new things to do, right? Different things. And what really led me to that was going to Bali in May, because that opportunity just landed in my lap, right? Something for me to respond to. Those of you who are into human design, it just sort of landed in my lap, and I was invited by my friend, and this was happening. It was 2 weeks away, and I was like, I really want to do this. So I just said, yes, I'm in. I'm going to Bali, and I went with this group. And it was so cool because at the beginning of this year, I really set the intention to connect with more spiritual, entrepreneurial minded people locally in Serbia, because before I'd been doing that while I'd been traveling and having to like outsource that, so to speak. And so in this instance, I was like, I want this community to be local. And so I went with 24 Serbs to Bali for a 2-week trip, a retreat, like spirituality, tantra, all these kinds of things I'm interested in. It was perfect opportunity. And I get there and just, wonderful connections with these people, really having a lot of realizations from the workshops that were happening at the retreat, doing a lot of just releasing stuck energy and opening up for new insights, like setting the intention for what I wanted, which was this kind of connection. And one of the things that I did realize while being with this community of Serbian people in Bali was that this community does definitely exist in Serbia, but it is primarily happening in Serbian. There are not a lot of opportunities to participate with the community in English, which my Serbian up to this point is pretty basic. It's still at a low level of conversation and definitely not advanced enough to be participating in high level conversations that I want to be having. And so that was an important realization for me to have, because up until that point, I'd been going to the Serbian classes and doing my homework every day and practicing and really like making sure I was working on it. And that realization just hit me like, this isn't going to be possible for me in Serbia, at least for quite some time. And I'm really going to have to wait it out, even though it's already been 4 years. And so that was interesting, you know, especially that combined with the fact that Serbia has been my place to do deep work. This podcast is named Deep Marketing. I have a signature course that's going to be live in January. It's called Deep Marketing. Everything I talk about in my business is about doing the inner work, about doing the deep work, about going into the shadows, about getting to know who you are, getting to know what's really going on with yourself below the surface. And that's not just my business, but it's everything in life. It's really my mantra. It's really my policy. It's one of my top priorities in life. Where was I going with that? Anyway, my point is doing this kind of deep work, doing these kinds of, I want to say self check-ins, but that's even, it sounds too light, but having these deep clearings with some powerful energy workers and spiritual teachers in Bali really opened me up, and I got some very important insights, like those kinds that just click and they hit you and you know this is true. There's this feeling in your body that happens when you know that something is true and when you're really tuned into your intuition and you know how to listen to it. And I know exactly what it feels like when there's a message for me and I know that it's true and I know it's for me and I know this is for me to take action on. And it always hits like, it's like a heavy load that just kind of wham, like smacks me in the chest. And it's this very weighted feeling that just feels like, ooh, yeah, okay, I know this is right. And so I had somebody tell me, there was an opportunity waiting for me. And he's talking, energetically, and he can see behind me, there's this opportunity in front of me. And I'm looking at this opportunity and I'm like, this feels dark. This feels heavy. And I don't want it. And I had this realization like, no, I'm choosing to let the darkness go for now. I've been in the darkness for a long time. I've been in this like deep underworld kind of journey that moving to Serbia was absolutely, I was like guided here. It was really incredibly important for me. This is where I had my spiritual awakening. This is where I found my purpose in life. This is where I started and built my business. This is where, so many things that were so important for me to learn about myself and my life and my family and all of this, they were here for me, and they required me to go deep and do this soul searching and go into this really underworld type of journey. And basically I realized I've completed what I've come here to do. Like, I've completed this journey. I know that now there are some new opportunities in store for me. There are some bigger and new opportunities that I want to have in my life, and they're not available to me in this location, and it's time for me to go. And I dwell on this story because this is really relevant to anyone who has a situation that's not quite what you want it to be, but it's not bad for sure, especially in business. I see this a lot where it's like, maybe you're launching a certain way, you're like repeating your challenge and you're doing your webinar and you're pitching and it's like people are buying and you're slowly growing over time. And it's like, yeah, okay. But it's not perfect. And you can look at it and you can say, well, it's not all falling apart. It's not this big disaster. Nothing's really wrong. I'm doing fine. But it's not lighting your soul up, and it's not giving you that kind of personal challenge that just lights your soul on fire and makes you feel like you're striving towards your purpose in life, and you're alive and you're vibrant and you're passionate and you're full of energy and you can't wait to do your work in the morning or during the day. And that's how you want to feel about your business. That's how you want to feel about your life. And if you don't feel that way, it's time to connect back in with yourself and start to listen to that intuition, start to listen to those breadcrumb signs from the universe and realize that there is something different for you. There's something more for you. You can really have the most exciting, passionate, energetic, joyful business and life that you can possibly think of. But sometimes it requires you to let go of something that you really love. I mean, I really love Serbia, and I have such beautiful friends and such a beautiful community there, even since I've been gone. The people who are messaging me, checking in on me, making sure everything's going okay with my travels and everything, it's absolutely wonderful. It's incredibly touching. It makes me emotional just to think about it. And so nothing was wrong with Serbia is my point, but it wasn't right for me anymore. And I had that knowing, that just like oomph in the chest that made me realize, okay, it's time to go. And so why delay? So it's been about 3 weeks, which is crazy because it feels like so much of a longer time has gone by. When you're really traveling a lot of distance, a lot happens in the energetic field. But anyway, so now I want to get into the more strategic part of how I'm making this work, right? So I jumped into it. I didn't spend a lot of time preparing. I knew about a month before I left that I would be doing this. So I went ahead and went heavy on the promotion in my marketing. And I locked in a private client to bring in some, just like the perfect fit person to bring in that high ticket recurring revenue once a month. So that was like, okay, that's an income stack. And then on top of that, it was like, all right, so let's look at what I have going on in my business. And so I do have a lot of mini funnels built up behind the scenes. You can learn about how I do those in the Art of Selling Secret Offers. It's one of the master classes / workshops that I have. So I do talk about how to do that, but those funnels, those mini funnels are set up behind the scenes so that when somebody finds me, is interested in working with me, they go to my website, they purchase one thing, they end up buying at least one more thing, which automatically doubles the revenue. And they often buy even more than that, which can often triple or quadruple the revenue that I would have made. So I have those set up. So some of those sales have been coming in all organically. I turned off my ads probably 2 months ago because I just didn't feel like paying for them anymore. And so these have all been coming in organically through new content, through new content, new contacts, new followers, those kinds of things, collaborations. That's, as long as I have new people coming into my audience, as long as I have my consistent content going out that's resonating with people, people are buying stuff on my website that I'm not even actively promoting, and then they're buying more, which is adding more revenue to my business. So that's definitely a piece that I have in place. And another piece that I have in place there is, as I said, it's my consistent content, which has been consistent now since I started this business 4.5 years ago, I would say. And so there have been people who have reached out to me, either who have been a no about working with me in the past or maybe later, or people who have just been in my audience for a long time and I hadn't heard from up until now. There are people who reach out and they want to book a session and they want to book a week with me and they want to work with me. And so those kinds of requests have been coming in the last few weeks as well. So that's the content is a compounding interest tool. And the thing about creating consistent content is I've continued to do that, even though I was at a festival the first week that I was traveling. I've been camping, I've been in the car, I've been in Istanbul exploring. Like, I have not been working nearly as much as I was before, and yet my content is still consistent. I'm still posting almost every day on Instagram. I'm still selling on my stories and email pretty consistently, not quite as much as I was before. I used to do it every single day. But the reason I'm able to do that is because my content creation process is so, it's like nature to me. It's like I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth and I wash my face, I make my content. It's a quick process. It's an easy process. It's a creative process. And it's just something that I do automatically pretty much every day. I mean, a couple days ago, I was in a national park camping with no signal on my cell phone. So that obviously didn't happen that day, but you know, the next day content went out. So that's easy for me to be consistent, and my message is resonating with people. So I'm not just creating content for the sake of creating content, right? It's not just for entertainment purposes or to help people quote unquote not forget about me. It's actually messaging that I know is resonating with my ideal clients. And so I'm speaking that consistently over and over again. And even though I'm not actively launching something new or running any specific promotions, people are reaching out and they're wanting to find out how to work with me. So that's how that works. That really is a compounding interest tool. And your content can even be your passive income tool. So I definitely want to stress the importance of that. The main thing that I have been working on as I'm sort of bouncing in between my travel, camping, adventures, explorations. And then like right now I'm in this small town in Turkey. I'm in my hotel and I'm really buckled down for about 2 days where I'm just like getting a lot of work done. And yeah, putting in those preparations so that I can go back out and be on the seaside for like a week and not have to worry about anything. So one of the things that I'm really working on behind the scenes is my main funnel that I've been running for a few months now, several months, let's say a few months, I would say 4 months on and off. And this funnel has been the main funnel that's been going into my business. And I was running some ads to it, nothing too much, but okay, getting some, couple new leads in there per day, right? On a small ad budget. And that funnel has been up to this point 60% profitable. So there are 40% that's going into the ad spend that I haven't been making back so far, which is quite good numbers. I ran this by a paid traffic meetup that I went to at this digital nomad festival last week, and people were quite impressed with the numbers that I was running by them there. So 60% profit is definitely not bad, because ads are a long-term investment for business, just like everything is. There are no short-term quick fixes, cash ATMs that you can just take out. Everything is a long-term investment. And yet I would love to have my ads become 100% profitable. That is absolutely my number one goal in my business right now. I want to make those ads 100% profitable. So this is a big goal. And I want to be able to then take those 100% profits and use them to put more into the ads and really scale my business in that way. So that's the strategy. That's the plan that I have in place. So I've been working on updating my copy and really looking at the analytics and readjusting what offer I was selling. And so there are definitely some tweaks happening behind the scenes that I'm doing to optimize this funnel. And I'm really excited to see what happens with that. I've just done a new test batch. So there have been some new leads coming in there and some profits coming through from that. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And I'm definitely committed to making my priority really focusing on this funnel and making it 100% profitable. So that's going to be passive income as well. So obviously you can see there has to be some work. There's no such thing as a set it and forget it funnel. It's not like you just fill in some templates and you turn on your funnel and you're like bringing in whatever income goals you've set. Like, it definitely takes some testing, it takes some optimizing, it takes some looking at things behind the scenes, and really working on that. But once the offers are purchased, people's lives are being changed with them, and I'm not having to show up on calls with people like that. That's coming from a program that I've already created, which will be run live again in the fall. But for now, people are signing up and they're getting to learn and they're getting education on that program. That's Multiply, my program about launching. So you can definitely check out Multiply, and that's going to be the main like driver of my income, of my new leads. That's going to take care of a lot in my business. So that's the main thing that I'm working on to shift in my business model. And then basically, aside from these things, right? This is pretty simple. This is just 3 simple things. This is, okay, I've got some mini funnels on the back end for people who come in through my content. I've got my consistent content and my, ever building relationships with my audience, with people in my audience that's resonating with people. And then I've got my main primary funnel that I'm working on bringing profits up to 100% from. So it's really simple. Like I said, your business does not have to be super complicated. It does not have to be full of anything fancy or whatnot. It doesn't have to be launching live programs all the time. It really can be very simple, where you can be like, okay, I have my 3 main things, and those are bringing in leads, and they're making sales, and they're bringing in income, and they're continuing to increase that income and continuing to increase those numbers, right? Because that's the point. We don't necessarily want to stay stagnant, although it's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes we have periods where it's like that, but overall, we want it to be growing, right? So increasing those numbers. So aside from those very simple things, that's just, like I said, routine content creation. I would say one of my challenges at the moment is keeping up with this podcast, which is not even that much of a challenge, honestly, because my episodes have been going out about every other week. So even though ideally I would love to have a new episode out every week, every other week is still consistent, right? And that's something I tell my clients a lot, is like, you don't have to have everything perfect all at once. It's totally fine to go, okay, the main thing I'm focusing on in my business right now is getting the profits on this funnel up and running. And in the meantime, I'm still going to be consistent with my podcast, but maybe my consistency can look different than what my ideal scenario would be. So ideal scenario, weekly podcast. Reality, which is sustainable and reasonable and I'm able to do and doesn't, stress me out or anything like that, is every other week a podcast. So great. This is, like I said, it's something that I work with on my clients a lot, which is, what does consistency mean to you? And we don't always jump from nothing to everything all at once. Sometimes there are gradual steps and individual steps. So for example, with one of my clients we worked on, yes, she needs to send out more sales emails. She needs to sell to her list more often, but let's just, instead of bumping her from a weekly email to a daily email, let's bump her from a weekly email to a twice weekly email. So we want to make jumps and steps of growth that are sustainable for long term. And that's what allows you to not burn out and not start to hate your business and feel stressed and overwhelmed by it. You get to make reasonable steps that you can sustain long term. The last thing I want to point out is that these changes and shifts that I'm making in my business model are really nothing drastic. It's not like I'm burning my business to the ground and reshaping the whole structure of my business. As you can see, everything that I'm working on right now has already been in place. I'm already creating consistent content. So it's not like I all of a sudden have to start creating consistent content and figure that out. I already had a podcast. So it's not like I all of a sudden I'm starting a new podcast on top of everything else and trying to crank that out. I already have a funnel, which is 60% profitable, and I'm just now tweaking it and optimizing it so it becomes 100% profitable. I already have these mini funnels in place on the back end. So I really don't even have to do anything with those. Those are already there. Of course, at some point, if I feel like I have all this extra time, I could go in and optimize them. There's always something you can do, but those are already there. So everything in my business that I'm doing and tweaking in order to have this freedom that I want for the full-time travel for the foreseeable future, this nomadic lifestyle that I'm starting into, it's already there. It's already in place because I've been working on building my business this way. This has been my long-term vision for a long time, right? So even though I didn't know I was going to leave Serbia and get in the car and drive to Vietnam, I knew that I wanted freedom in my life. I knew that I wanted the ability to up and leave whenever I wanted to, or especially sometimes, unfortunately, these changes we make are not because we're doing something fun, but sometimes things happen like health things or family emergencies or things in life where you absolutely have to take time off, where life forces you to take time off. And that sends a lot of people into a panic when those things happen. And that doesn't have to be the case when you start now. When you look at your business now and you evaluate it from a standpoint of, do I have things in place in my business? So I'm making passive income. So I'm getting consistent inquiries from people who are a great fit to work with me. So I'm making sales on a regular basis. And so that those sales are continuing to grow so that I can also satisfy that part of myself that does always want to grow and build more and build like a real legacy for myself in this world. So start now and prepare for whatever life has in store for you, because you don't want to be tied to your laptop. You don't want to be tied to your business. You don't want to be constantly doing these, whatever it is that you have in your business. Maybe you don't want to be only offering one-on-one. Maybe you want to offer more passive, more group things, masterminds, group programs, things that are more scalable, that don't require so much of your time. Maybe you would like to go into a passive course only model where you just show up a few times to support people, or you just have a very selective few private clients, which you get to really choose and be picky with and charge really top high level pricing for. There's all kinds of different models that you can do that really work to have a lifestyle that is more free, that allows you to travel more, have those, significant chunks of time off with family, go off grid, be unaccountable to the world, right? Satisfy that lust for adventure or something new or wandering or whatever it is. You've got to build that up now, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to just jump off the deep end and go and do that later on down the road. Which if you already are in that situation, you definitely can. It's just obviously more stressful and a little bit harder on the nervous system. But I do want to invite, I have space for one, maybe two private clients at the moment because of my journey and my nomadic lifestyle. My schedule is really not available for many more people. So it's really just one or two people that I can take on as private clients. So if you're listening to this episode and you're like, I need these passive strategies, I need to optimize my sales, I need to optimize my content so that I'm getting consistent inquiries, so I'm making consistent passive sales, so that I have these things coming in, so that I can establish this base for the kind of life I want to live, I invite you to reach out now, reach out today, start today. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's have that conversation. Let's find out if you're the right fit. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to chat with you in a voice note or typing, whichever is better for you, and find out if this is the right fit for you, because there is no time better to start this kind of thing than now, because it takes time to build these things up. It takes time to build out the copy, to build out the tools, right? You know this. If you've been in business for any amount of time, you know that these things can be done simply, and yet they do have to be done. And then it takes a bit of time to optimize them and really get them going and play with the strategy and tweak the strategy so that it fits your lifestyle and your creativity and doesn't put you in a box and all of that stuff. So that's why it is a 6 or 12 month commitment to work with me, because if you really want these systems to work for you long time, for the longevity of your business, it takes that initial investment up front. So I encourage you to reach out if this is speaking to you, and let's get started right away. Let's get your business working for you so that maybe you can go and travel full time, or follow, a new passion, a new hobby, whatever it is. Let's make everything